So I took on a second job to help keep my wife's business from going under. Then last week she dropped a bomb. "I don't love you," she said. "I never did." I didn't say a word. 2 months later, her business went bust, and so did her ego. "Hi, everyone. My name's James. I'm 38, and I've been married to Clara for 12 years. We have 2 kids. They're 8 and 6. Things were always pretty good between us. Nothing amazing, but we got through the regular struggles everyone goes through. Or so I thought, anyway. About a year ago, Clara decided she wanted to start her own business. She always wanted to be her own boss. After all those years in a corporate job that was just sucking the life out of her, she felt it was the right time. It was a big move for us. My job was bringing in a steady paycheck, but Clara's idea was a gamble. She wanted to open a little online boutique, selling handmade stuff and carefully selected items. It could have been a huge success if she'd done it right, but it also could have crushed us if she didn't have the right connections or enough money. Honestly, I was happy for her. She had been talking about starting a business for years, and I figured if anyone could make it happen, it was her. She was creative, she had drive, and she could charm people into buying anything. The only problem? She didn't know a thing about running a business, and it showed. The first few months were crazy. She was working around the clock to get the store up and running. There were many long nights, and it was rough when orders weren't coming in, along with a lot of stress when things went sideways. I could see how much she was pouring into it, and I really respected that. But it was plain to see it wasn't going like she'd wanted. I could tell the strain was getting to her, especially because she wouldn't ask for help. I knew she was afraid of messing up. She didn't want anyone to see how close she was to cracking. That's when I jumped in. At first, I didn't say anything, but I could tell she was being swamped by everything. So I made a decision. I picked up a second job. I was already working a full-time job as a software engineer, but it wasn't cutting it. We had bills to pay, 2 kids to raise, and Clara's business was bleeding more money than it was making. I found a part-time job as a delivery driver, mostly evenings and weekends. It wasn't the greatest job, but it helped with the money problems. It meant I'd be home less time for me. But I didn't care. I was doing it for her. I figured if I really put the effort in, we could make this work together. Her business would finally take off and everything would be okay. But after a few months, things started to feel off. I was totally drained, both physically and mentally. The late nights were really wearing me down, but even more than that, Clara was acting distant. I'm not sure if she was overloaded by her business or if something else was going on, but I could feel a change in the air. She'd disappear into her office for ages, toiling away on her website, dealing with clients, fiddling with her products, and then she'd emerge looking totally crushed. I didn't pry, you know. I figured it was just a phase. She was under pressure and stress messes with people. But I couldn't ignore the growing distance between us. Those late nights spent in separate parts of the house, the lack of real talk, the random snapping. I started to feel like I was sharing a home with someone I didn't even know, and that was awful. Then, 2 months ago, Clara dropped a bomb on me. It was a Wednesday evening. The kids were already asleep, and we were at the kitchen table. I was getting ready to go to another late shift when she turned to me, her face white as a sheet, her voice trembling. "James," she said, "I have to talk to you." I could just tell by her eyes that something was coming. I tried to brace myself, but the words still slammed into me. "I don't love you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I never did. I've been faking it for years. I don't know how it happened, but I've felt this way for a long time. I just don't love you anymore." I'm not proud of it, but I didn't react like she probably thought I would. I didn't scream or sob or beg her to take it back. I stayed quiet. I just sat there, letting her words just hang there between us. That silence felt so heavy, like it was crushing me. I have no clue what she was hoping for, but I wasn't about to let her see me lose it. So I stood up, grabbed my coat, and just bolted for my other job. I couldn't deal with it at that moment. I needed to get away, just to clear my head. The next few days felt so weird. We barely talked. She just holed up in her office even more than usual, and I just kept going through the motions, juggling both jobs, taking care of the kids, trying to act like everything was okay. But it wasn't. The space between us had just gotten enormous, and I had no idea how to fix it. Plus, her business wasn't doing well either. The money she'd sunk into it wasn't paying off like she thought it would. She was busting her butt to make it work, trying to save what she could. You could see the stress, though. The weight of her failure, the way everything she'd worked for was falling apart, started to show on her face. I could see it in her eyes. She was just broken, and honestly, I felt awful for her. But then, there was this one night that changed everything. Friday night, Clara came to me with this look of pure desperation plastered all over her face. She'd gotten an email from a potential investor, someone who'd already checked out her business before. He said he'd be willing to invest, but only if she was prepared to make some crazy changes like change her entire business plan, let some people go, and basically rebuild the whole thing from scratch. She didn't know what to do. The pressure was building, and it felt like this was her last chance. I knew she was struggling, like really struggling, trying to save her dream, but the whole thing was going under and fast. I just kept my mouth shut and listened. I could see the worry and the terror in her eyes. She was trying so hard to keep it all together, but I knew it was all falling apart. Those next few weeks were brutal. Clara took the deal. She changed things around in the business, had to let some people go, and dumped everything she had into trying to make it work. But it wasn't enough. Just a month later, the whole thing went belly up. The investor bailout. The customers stopped showing up. She had to close it all down. When her business finally tanked, it felt like everything in my world shifted. I was still trying to get over what she had told me 2 months before. "I don't love you," she said. "I never did." It was like she just ripped something solid between us to shreds. I didn't say anything back then, and I didn't say anything when the business failed either. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. For her, the business failing wasn't just about losing money. It was like her whole self was crumbling. Clara had given that business everything. She built it from scratch, and when it all fell apart, so did her sense of self. I could see it in her, the way she acted. After that, the vibrant, sure of herself woman I'd married was gone, replaced by someone who was just bitter, angry, and completely defeated. I could see the grief in her eyes, sure, but there was something else too. Anger. She was mad at me. Clara started getting at me, just flying off the handle over nothing. Leaving my shoes in the living room, not doing the dishes fast enough, forgetting the Thursday trash, it all set her off. And every single time, it felt like she was blaming me for her whole life falling apart. Like I was the reason for all the bad choices, all the stuff she couldn't fix. I just took it. Didn't argue back, didn't see the point. I was exhausted, working 2 jobs, dealing with her up and down moods, just trying to hold myself together. But what I didn't get then was that she was just getting started. It began with these little digs like, "Maybe you should just quit that second job, James. Doesn't seem to be doing much good, does it? I'm still stuck here." I honestly didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of a fight. I'd been carrying us for months, busting my butt to keep things afloat, and it still wasn't enough. The more she went on, the more I realized it wasn't just about her business failing. She was pissed at me for even trying to help, for trying to make things right. So it was about a month after my business went belly up. I got home from my second job, another killer shift, around 1 a.m., dead tired, just wanting to pass out. But Clara was up. She was in the living room, arms crossed, staring at the TV, but not really watching it. She hadn't been sleeping well, and man, you could tell. She looked at me when I came in, this bitter look in her eyes. I was getting used to that look, unfortunately. "You don't get it, do you?" she snapped. "You think everything will be okay if you just work harder, but you're wrong. I lost everything, and you—" She stopped like she was fighting back tears. Then she sighed this huge sigh and went on, "You never even tried to help with the real stuff. You were too busy with that second job, too busy running away from me." I didn't say anything. I was too wiped. And honestly, I didn't know what to say. Then she jumped up, her voice getting louder. "I needed you, James. I needed you to actually be there, but you—" She waved her hand at me like I was some kind of disease. "You just let me fail." It was like a switch flipped in her. All those years of marriage, all that we'd built together, it meant nothing to her anymore. The woman who always relied on me was suddenly tearing me apart. And it wasn't even about her business anymore, it was about everything. Her failures, her resentment, her refusal to take any blame. "I've done everything for you," she hissed, her voice laced with contempt. "And this is how you repay me. You're always late, you're always exhausted, and I'm stuck cleaning up all your messes you can't be bothered with." I could practically feel her words like a punch. "It always goes like this, right? You never really cared." She was accusing me of being unfeeling when I'd poured my heart and soul into making sure things didn't fall apart. It wasn't just the extra job, I'd seen her struggle. I was there for her, trying to help when her ambitions seemed out of reach. And now she was putting all the blame on me. I didn't say a word, and I guess she took that as a green light. "I didn't ask you to work that second job, James," she said. "You thought you were saving me, thought you were some kind of hero in all this mess, but you're not. You're just pathetic. You can't fix this, any of it." I tried to hold it together, but something inside just broke. It wasn't just what she said. That hurt, yeah, but it was how she said it. It was how she made everything about her, how she couldn't own up to her own part in the mess. I just turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind me. She didn't come after me, and honestly, I didn't care. I couldn't be around her, not then. But here's the thing. After all that she'd said, after everything I'd poured into our life together, something inside me just froze. It got cold, real cold. The more she pushed me, the more I questioned if she even deserved my help anymore. I started wondering if the woman I'd married was even the woman I thought I knew. I didn't say a word to her, not then. But I was seeing the cracks, man, big ones. I wasn't sure I could keep up the act much longer, pretending we were a team. I don't know what flipped the switch, but after that night, Clara was a different person to me. The more she piled the blame on me, the more I saw it wasn't about her business at all. Never had been. It was like all this bitterness and anger had been brewing under the surface for ages, and with the business tanking, it all exploded. I couldn't just ignore it anymore. I'd busted my butt to support her, to support us, and that's how she repaid me. This quiet rage started building inside me, a slow burn I couldn't put out. And I knew, deep down, I couldn't just keep taking it. It wasn't good for either of us. I started thinking about all the times she'd twisted things, made herself the victim. The longer I thought about our marriage, the more I saw how she'd subtly blamed me for stuff that wasn't my fault. It wasn't just the business, either. She always had an excuse, a way out whenever things went south. It always fell on me to fix everything, which really wasn't right. And now, since her business tanked, she couldn't hide behind that anymore. The truth was, she wasn't just a casualty of bad luck. Clara was a real go-getter when it came to getting her way. She knew how to work people, she knew how to make them feel bad, she knew how to spin things around. And for ages, I let it slide because I was so caught up in what I thought was love. But now I could see it for what it was, plain manipulation. I had to do something, but I wasn't going to sink to her level. I wasn't going to give her the pleasure of some big fight where she could play the victim again. Nope, I wasn't going to let her have that. Instead, I wanted her to understand how I felt. I wanted her to feel a little bit of that feeling of being helpless that she'd put me through. But it wasn't going to be with any yelling or confrontations. I had a more low-key plan, something that would really make her see how wrong she was. How much she'd taken advantage of me. It started with the house. Clara had always handled the money stuff. I trusted her to take care of everything while I worked. She was the one who handled the bank accounts, the credit cards, the investments, the whole shebang. I never questioned it because she was usually good with money, or at least she had been before the business went bust. Man, looking back, I see just how much control she had over me. She always called the shots with our money, and I just went along, figuring she knew what she was doing. So I started secretly checking our bank accounts. I didn't tell her, of course. I wasn't trying to be sneaky or anything, but I needed to know what was really going on. It didn't take long to find something I never saw coming, a secret investment account. It was all in Clara's name, stuffed with a ton of cash she'd been squirreling away for years. I had no clue. I mean zero. She'd kept it completely from me. I was shocked at first then, while the anger just hit me. She'd never even hinted at this account. It felt like she was planning for something, maybe for when her business tanked, or maybe just for herself if things went south between us. Either way, it really showed me how little I knew about what she was really up to. But I didn't jump in and confront her right away. That would have been dumb. Nah, I needed a plan. If I just blurted it out, she could totally turn it around and make me look like a creep, invading her privacy. Nope, I was gonna play this smart. I started by quietly moving a little cash, just a few $100 out of her secret account and into one of my own. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get her attention, I figured. I knew she'd catch on, she always did. Clara was super careful with money. She kept track of every single cent, so it was only a matter of time. When she found out, I'd act clueless. I'd tell her I was just checking things out. I wouldn't make a huge deal out of it, but I'd let her see that I could now access the accounts, now that I wasn't totally in the dark anymore. I wanted her to feel that knot of insecurity, just like I had for so long, always wondering what was being hidden from me. It wasn't really about the cash. It was about control. It was about proving that she couldn't just push me around anymore. Sure enough, a few days later, Clara did exactly what I expected. She barged into the living room, a paper clutched in her hand. Her face was red, her eyes wide with pure panic. "James, what did you do?" she practically yelled. "Why did you take money from the account? That's our money." I acted like I was totally caught off guard. "What are you talking about? I didn't take anything. I just moved a little bit around." "I figured you'd be happy, since money's been so tight recently." Her face twisted, a mix of confusion and rage. "No, you don't get it. You can't just do that. You have no idea how hard I've worked for that money. You think I'm just going to let you." "I don't know, Clara," I interrupted, trying to sound nonchalant. "I thought it was a shared account. You never said anything about a separate account to me." "Guess we should have talked about it, huh?" It hit her like a ton of bricks. I saw her face just freeze, She totally thought she'd gotten away with it. Suddenly, things weren't looking so good for her. She stalled, searching for words. "I didn't think you needed to know," she mumbled. "I didn't want to worry me." "Clara, you've been running the whole show behind my back," I said. I gave her a little smirk. "Guess we both have our secrets, huh?" That was it. She just stood there, eyes all over the place, trying to figure out a way out. I could see the guilt eating at her, but she wasn't about to fess up. Not yet, anyway. But I knew she wasn't in control anymore. The days after were super tense, but not how I figured. Clara was distant, all withdrawn, while I kept working my second job and trying to keep us from going totally broke. I knew she was steaming mad about the money I'd moved. But even more than that, it was the silence, the heavy silence between us. She didn't say another word about it, and I didn't push her, but something in her had definitely changed. For the first time in forever, I felt this power, this control I didn't even know I'd lost. She'd always been the one calling the shots, but now, somehow, I had the upper hand. I knew I couldn't just let it go. Weeks went by, and Clara tried to get back to normal, but things were seriously messed up. Her business was still a disaster, and even though she tried to cover it up, you could just feel the stress. The few clients she had left were starting to doubt her, and she was running out of options. One night, Clara came to me and sat down with this huge sigh. Her shoulders just sagged, and for the first time in a long time, she looked vulnerable. She'd always been so stubborn, so seeing this was really something. She started talking, her voice barely above a whisper. "James," she said, I'm so sorry for how I treated you. I know things have been rough, and I blamed you for stuff that wasn't even your fault. I should have been honest with you." I just listened, letting her say what she needed to say. A part of me wanted to hear her admit how she took me for granted, how she never really valued what I did for her. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't change anything. It wasn't even about getting an apology anymore. It was about what came next. And honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted a next with her. Her voice shook as she continued. "I shouldn't have let my stupid pride get in the way. I pushed you away when I really needed you. I didn't want to admit I needed help." Yeah, I just slowly nodded, absorbing what she was saying, but I couldn't bring myself to say anything. A piece of me was still wounded, still pissed off, and I didn't know if I could just let it all go and act like everything was okay. The harm was already done, and I couldn't just ignore it anymore. "I know it's too late for a lot of stuff," she said, looking down at her hands. "But I need you to get it. I'm sorry, I truly am." I didn't say anything right away. I didn't even know if I should. I just sat there, thinking over everything she'd said. Her words felt kinda hollow to me at that point. Apologies only meant something if you actually tried to change, and I didn't know if Clara could even do that. The next week, Clara made a decision that really shocked me. She announced that she was completely closing down her business. It wasn't pretty. It was a slow, brutal collapse. She really didn't have a choice. Clients were leaving, suppliers were bailing, and the money troubles were getting worse. The money that used to come so easily was now a distant memory, and she was forced to deal with the fallout of her actions. But instead of being a grown-up about it, she just blew up in anger, blaming the economy, blaming her bad luck, blaming everybody but herself. The truth was just too hard for her to face. She'd built her whole world on thinking she could control everything. Her business, how people saw her, her relationships. And when it all started to fall apart, she just didn't know what to do. Time went on, and Clara just got weirder and weirder. She pulled away more and more, and I could tell she was going downhill fast. Look, I gotta say, I didn't feel bad for her, but it wasn't because I'm a bad person. It's because I'd been so busy taking care of her, I'd completely forgotten about myself. Finally, things started to make sense. Then one day, Clara sat down with me looking all pale and worn out. She'd clearly been crying, her eyes were all tired and puffy. "James," she started, her voice all shaky, "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just need you to know I'm terrified. I've lost everything. My business is gone. Everything I worked for is gone, and I don't know what to do." That old Clara, the driven, ambitious, determined woman, was still in there somewhere. But now she was just a shadow of her former self, and it was brutal to watch. Even tougher to see how far she'd fallen. "I've been so focused on proving everyone wrong," she went on being successful, on showing I could do it all on my own. "But now I see how much I've hurt you, and I don't know how to fix it." I just stared at her, my mind racing. All that anger I'd been holding on to, it started to melt away. The resentment, too. This wasn't the woman I'd married. She was someone else entirely, someone who'd made her choices and now had to deal with the fallout. And I couldn't be a part of that anymore. Okay, so I finally had to say it, you know? I looked her right in the eyes and said, "We need to face this," real quiet-like. I'd been trying so hard to keep things together, but it was obvious we weren't the same people anymore. Our lives were headed in totally different directions, and I knew there wasn't any turning back. Clara's eyes went wide like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. She tried to say something, but nothing came out. She was speechless, completely stunned, couldn't argue with what was right there in front of her. "It's over, Clara," I told her. The words just hung in the air, you know. We'd both changed, and not for the better, not in a way that made sense for us to be together anymore. I'd given it my all, everything I had, but I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for something that wasn't working. She didn't even fight me. There wasn't anything left to say. It was finished. The next few weeks were a blur. Clara moved out of our place. We shut down the business. She went back home to her folks, hoping for a fresh start. I had no clue what she'd do next, but I knew I couldn't keep waiting around for her to change or for things to magically get better. For me, it was all about rebuilding. I kept working that second job, and little by little, I started feeling a new purpose. That anger, that bitterness that had eaten me up inside, it started to fade. It was replaced with this clarity. I'd been through hell, but I was free. Free from the manipulation, the blame game, the constant struggle to make something work when it just plain couldn't. Losing her business was awful for Clara, but you know what? I got something back that meant way more to me. It's something I'll cherish forever, something I'll never, ever forget.